Hello fellow model makers, I'm making more models this year. Anyways, historically I use Vallejo water-based paints and I shoot them through an airbrush, but because they're water-based and they tend to dry very quickly inside the actual action here. And so even though I've taken some and put them into paint thinner and totally cleaned them out, they just don't stop working. And what's really annoying is if you're in the middle of a paint job and the thing gets all clogged up, you gotta unscrew this, clean out the needle, and constantly undo this and remove the needle and make sure it's really clean. As you can see, actually here, there's paint dried on that needle. I didn't do a good job. I very often shoot paint thinner through it, which is a volatile, vapor. So it's not great, So I've tried many airbrushes, by the way. These two are my latest acquisitions, and they both work very well. I got all these things off AliExpress. And actually, here's a warning. This one showed up. It's listed as a double action, and it's not. This is the second one I got, actually. Listed as a double action. The first one was black. I just threw it into the trash. This one, I tried to get money back. There is a back thing, but I take them off so I can remove the needle. This one goes $6. Listed as a double action. There's no valve down here, so it's a single action. The way you can tell, there's no valve there. Whereas a real double action, there's a valve there. So yeah, pretty much a scam because AliExpress only gave me a $3 refund. I paid $6, but if I wanted a single action, I can buy one for $2. So they're basically making an extra dollar off of this scam, I think. They're basically misadvertising, and I've seen several other shops do it. So anything that looks kind of like this, it comes in green, black, this thing, and probably pink, I think, or a reddish color. They're all listed as double actions. They're not. Complete lie. So it looks like there's two ridges here. It's an anodized aluminum cup. Has a lid usually. So avoid this. It's a scam. Not cool. Maybe I'll do a video on it, that scam, later. Alright, well anyways. The acrylic water-based Vallejos, they just get clogged up, and it's a real pain to clean these things out. So there's a YouTube channel called Barbatos Rex, and that dude is definitely my favorite, the best reviewer of model making tools, whether it be airbrushes, sanding things, using dehydrators to dry parts. The guy is awesome. So thank you, Barbatos Rex. I've bought a lot of things based off of your channel. Anyways, he reviewed something similar to this. I bought this off Taobao, but most Westerners, it seems, cannot buy from that website. So I'll just link an AliExpress equivalent to it. And it's some sort of a funky, portable, battery-powered airbrush system, and I thought I would review it myself because I don't really consider myself a professional model maker. I don't even like making models. I just like collecting models, but sometimes you gotta make them in order to have something that you want. Alright, well here we have SHANGSE. I've seen some other ones with a different brand name, but they physically look the same, so I'm pretty sure it's all the same factory, just one of them is labeled for Chinese domestic use, which is this one, and then another one for Westerners. So it takes a Type-C charge. It's telling you what the battery charge level is, which is great. And then this, I don't know. I might have to take translator, but 0 to 100. I would have to assume it's the amount of air it's pushing out. This, I think, is the trigger to release air. And yeah, alright, so I don't know, I can't read that. And then this is the mechanism that shoots air in front of a needle tip that's sucking up air through the bottle. So the way a traditional airbrush works, here's a very popular one you can buy. I actually stamped it 3 because that's the needle size going in here. So if you're in the middle of a paint job, very often right around here, where the long needle here protrudes through the air, the paint valve there, it gets clogged up. So basically I have to remove this part here, and I just literally take my fingertips and take it off, and then I have to put this back on, and very often it'll work again. But what happens is this is unscrewable, this little nozzle, this 0.3 nozzle, and back in there, that's where all the paint dries up and gets clogged eventually. So eventually you got to take this thing off with some pliers, or actually I don't even bother using pliers, but the first time you might have to. I just use my fingers and I just hand tighten it. But in there, paint gets clogged up, and it's just annoying to clean that sort of stuff. And eventually this O-ring is going to wear out, and it's like not a common thing you're going to be able to find in places. So that's the downfall of these types of airbrushes. But this thing was really cheap, you know, this was probably $6 or $10, so I have like 5 of them before, but after a while, if I can't clean them out with paint thinner, they end up in the trash, unfortunately. These two newer ones, I can't say enough about them. I haven't tested them long enough, but they seem to be a little bit different in design. You still have this very front end, so you could, you know, try to wipe that off with your fingers to clean it off. Then you have this one here, and it's still the traditional tiny little needle going into that little brass tube. This is unnecessary, really. I don't know why this is a separate piece. This is just passing air around that brass thing. But anyways, it works fine for now because it's pretty new. I've only painted a few models with it. And then we have this one, which is supposedly a better design, where it doesn't have that super tiny needle. It has this giant kind of needle. So the air goes through these channels, and then it comes down around this, and then, you know, through capillary action, that high speed of air sucks the paint past the steel needle. So this, in theory, maybe it'll be easier to clean. I don't know. Again, haven't had it long enough. If you have this one, you know, leave a comment if it's long term, if it's a great thing or not. All right. So, anyways, all whether it's this or this garbage single action, you're gonna have to clean them, and I just don't want to clean stuff. I don't even want to make models, but cleaning airbrushes, that's even more annoying. So this should hopefully avoid all of that, because the paint never actually mixes inside the gun, right? So the paint is in these bottles. So I bought some of the paints. This is a clear coat, a black primer, and just some random colors. But you'll see this one, it's kind of separated, so naturally you're gonna have to shake it. But I see 2 dots there, and what that's telling me, yeah, there's ball bearings or maybe glass beads in there that helps speed up the process of shaking. You know, there's a lot of agitation when you have 2 spheres in there as well. So that's a nice touch. Some other paint brands do that, I've noticed. Very funky green USB cable. I've never seen this colored cable before. It's probably a 1 meter cable. Yeah, just based off of that length. It's got a purple inside. I'm not sure what that means. Some sort of inspection date, I think. So my battery came around 90. Okay. So even with the thing off, it's more of a battery checker. It checks the voltage or the capacity of the battery, but it doesn't actually pump. So now that's really the on switch. Yeah, and I guess it's the speed. Interesting, 66. So under load, it drops quite a bit. But without the load. Alright, so just that a little bit of time. 88, went down 1. I think it's supposed to run for like 2 hours. So what else to talk about? I guess there's not much else to talk. Well, maybe the weight is important. It's a nice case. Seems alright. So by itself, it's like 328 grams. With this, which you're going to need, this pops on right here. You can see there's some sort of rubber seal that seals up against that air outlet. This is just a friction fit, it seems. There's no lock that I heard or felt. Now, so the base gun is 341 grams, and then obviously your paint. Okay, so these are optional. I purchased. These are bigger needles. All right, so I looked up the listing, and this color here, kind of brownish, is a 0.2 tip. 0.3 is blue, green 0.5, and 0.8 is this like off-white, almost glow-in-the-dark kind of color. So I'm sure the standard paints will shoot fine, but we'll try the different nozzles and stuff like that. But my goal is to actually shoot a water-based paint. This is one sold in Thailand. It's water-based. This also has like a ball bearing in there. And so I'm going to try to paint this Navy airplane here with this. So I looked up, these bottles are 50 milliliter bottles. Boy, I don't know how to measure the thread of something. The smooth part of this tube is 17.5 millimeters. With the thread, it's 19.2, 19.3. So I'm sure it's just a standard like bottle. It says HD23. Maybe that's, I don't know what that would mean, but maybe if you did a search for that, you could find a smaller tube. See, I don't want to take this entire thing and dump it in there, but you have to have a little minimal amount for the capillary tube to suck up, the paint. Which brings up the point, you can buy probably different tubes as long as the diameter fits that hole. My calipers are reading like 1.6, and I've seen capillary tubes with that dimension. I've also seen 1.7, but maybe it's also 1.5. But unfortunately, well, let's see if I can measure this. So I can't confirm what size tube is supposed to fit up in here. 1.5 definitely would. But you probably don't want to have like air passing past the tube, right? It won't create a vacuum. So if anything, 1.6, 1.7 is a reading I'm getting in there. So 1.7, yeah, all right. So it's actually a decent amount of plastic reaching through there, reaching the tube. So that much was actually embedded in the black part of this cap, maybe 2 centimeters or maybe 15 millimeters. And I think the thing is longer. Yeah, so it's longer than the actual bottle. So I don't think there's any way. Let's just take a look with the thing empty, actually. That'll be the easiest thing to do. Yeah, so if that's flush, it has to, suck paint through the bottom. So you don't have to dump a whole thing in there, which I won't. This has these flanges. I know with glue dispensers you can actually twist it on, but I don't see any sort of threading in here. So I think it's just a friction fit. If I twist it 90 degrees, no, it still comes out. So it's just a friction fit. Well, that's fine. All right. So you know what? While we're here, let me fill this up a little bit with this paint. I find I can actually shoot this paint right through those standard airbrushes, even though it's a little bit thick. See, look, that's kind of thick. That's plenty. That's way more than this airplane needs. But we'll try it. We'll just try it with the original consistency that this thing came in. This is a new bottle, by the way, because I'm lazy. And that's the reason why you might want to buy the different size needles. If it's a thick one, well, you know what? I'm going to start with the smaller needle, and then we can eventually work our way up to 8. It's highly improbable to me that a 0.2 is going to allow that paint to pass, but maybe if that air pump is fast enough, it will. All right, so we're going to start with that, and then we'll move our way up. So I thought I'd show everyone my disgusting airbrush setup here. It's kind of ghetto and cheap, but it works. First I had this compressor without the tank, and it lasted around 5 years, and it still pumped, it just wasn't putting out air. So I think there's probably an O-ring that burnt, melted or something inside of there. This one's pretty new, so it works perfectly fine. Just got my airbrushes and, some tools and stuff up here. A bunch of these drying peg racks things. This is where I have my paint thinner, alcohol or acetone, and water to thin down the watered down paints, and I just shoot them in here, and it eventually dehydrates. Some extra glass beads if I'm mixing some of these little bottles of paint to clean up the front end of those standard airbrushes, and then if I need to take a tube of paint apart or the airbrush there, and then it's not a bad idea to use something to plug up the standard airbrush so you can bubble back and clean them out. A little IPA, some alcohol in here in case I need to clean something with the cotton swabs, some eyelash swabs. And then this is my ghetto evacuation box. This is basically a plastic storage box just laid on its side. I cut a hole in here, and this is a big kitchen fan. It's like a 6-inch kitchen fan. I believe that's a 6-inch diameter. And there's no on-off switch or anything like that, but it sucks air pretty well. And then I have some ducting going through that screen going out past the wall. So I still wear a respirator, you know, because if for some reason the wind pushes back or something like that. But in general, the thing works very well. Eventually, if I get tired of this, I'll just buy another cheap plastic box, cut a different hole in it, and I'm good. These are some LEDs I just silicone glued on there. I'll wire them out myself with this switch here. But usually everything is just running into this whole power strip. I turn the whole power strip on. I turn the fan off because it's very loud. Yeah, pretty loud. Oh, this is my little camera mount I on a ball thing. So let me put that in here. Adjust the angle. So hopefully I can show you everything. I'll try to look at it. Okay, so I charged it up a little bit, and I think this is... No, it's not. I thought this was a thread, but it's not. It's just 2 ridges. Oh, maybe there's 2 O-rings in there to... No, I would have guessed it'd be O-rings to hold the paint in place. But all I see are 4 little ridges. Well, yeah, 4 little ridges that I guess grab this black plastic. And by the way, they are glass beads. You can see through those beads. They're pretty big as well, so mixes up the paint pretty fast. Alright, so let's see. We're going to try this blue one here with the 0.2. It's that brownish tip. So a very small thread with the color. And I guess, yeah, alright. It's interesting that there's nothing locking this in place. And also, you'll be mindful, there's a ridge, or I guess a channel, and I missed it. I'm trying to focus here. Come on. See, I missed the channel, so it actually pushed the needle to the side. Just flip it there. Alright, anyways. So maybe not a good idea to be whipping this around since there's no lock in place. It's just friction from 4 tiny little ridges. I guess you can rest it though like that. That's not an issue. Alright, so right now we're charged at 9, well maybe 100. Well, that's weird. Only when I put this white paper perpendicular does the camera start to show these black lines. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna I guess hold it so I don't see black lines. So right now I didn't turn the dial up. It's not... Okay, now it's spitting out at a very low. Yeah, so very low. The thing is almost like vertically down. Yeah, oddly, it's actually pulling paint through at that low airspeed, and it's through a tiny tip. So I'm gonna just go full blast. So basically the ridge is vertical up now. Boy, I don't know if you can see it. There it is. And it is capable of pulling this alcohol-based stuff right through. Pretty far away. Very close. This is quite amazing. I didn't think it would be this good. I bought this really just to do base coats, but it seems like it's precise enough that you could write with it. But there's not much control. You can't fade it out, you know? It's just an on-off switch. It's not like a capacitive switch. And you see how it just spit out there? So when you're starting up, and this also happens with the normal airbrushes, see that it spits out a lot of paint. So anyways, so quite amazing. It did pull through that tiny tip, and yeah, very quick release because there's no threading. I would have guessed, you know, again, there would be O-rings in there, so you could force, but you know, maybe the paint would like fly all over the place. Maybe that's why they decided not to use O-rings. All right, so that was the 0.2 tip. I'll just leave that in front of the 0.2 bag. Now we have this black primer with the 0.3 tip. So I'm gonna just undo that. Yeah, some paint is being forced out. And look, it went off to the side. So you gotta be careful. I think it's because I'm right-handed and it just twisted it that way. And look, the thing's getting dirty, but let's see if it works. Oh yeah, so this is a big difference. Just that from point 2 to point 3. Sorry, the black lines there. So from this distance, oh yeah, it's going to cover a lot more ground. All right, so that's interesting. Let's see if the primer messes this up. Yeah, it's not messing it up. But I'm going to try an area and just cake it on, and let's see if it messes up the paint. That is not the way to paint stuff, by the way. But that's some thick alcohol-based paint. Let's see if it rips it up. In general, I don't think it's good to put alcohol paints over water-based paints, but maybe because this paint is so dry, it doesn't matter. Alright. I'm going to try to shoot this back towards me. This is probably a bad idea. So, yeah, I would say it's doing a good job. Swing it on. From this side, it didn't even lay it on thick. But this is a 0.3 nozzle again. Alright, so 0.3 works, at least with these paints by the brand, so that's not an issue. Let's try 0.5. We have the green color, and this is yellow. And yellow has a really hard time covering up colors, yellow and white. So this is off-white. Hopefully, let's see how well we can cake this on. I'm going to be more mindful this time. This is horrible. You should probably clean that off, but let's just try worst-case scenarios of laziness, which is what I am. Alright, so that's jammed up there, sticking up past the brass air outlet. So let's first test it on some paper. Oh yeah. So now again, much bigger than the black. Yeah, huge difference. I can't get it small without it flooding. See how wet it is? So, alright, let's see now if we cover up some off-white color. This is pretty light back here. Wow, not an issue. Yeah, that that covered it really fast. Want to maybe let it dry a little bit. All right, that's impressive. That's actually very impressive. All right, let's get the yellow out of here. Make sure it doesn't dry out. And then the worst case scenario is this 0.8 nozzle. This is huge. 4 times bigger than the original one we started with. Look how big that thing is, right? So let's see how much it dumps out. This is white primer, so it should be kind of thick, I think. But now let's see if we can cover up that black. This one, it didn't miss the notch. All right, so this black. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Let's start with the paper thing. Yeah, it's hard to tell on white paper, but you can see if I hold it close, it's very wet, you know, because it's pushing a lot of paint out. All right, let's go to this. It seems to be clogged up. So this is very splotchy, very not a smooth application of paint. So I think for priming it's so not so bad, but if you're trying to do finish coats, you don't want to use this size nozzle. In fact, let's go back and cover this yellow. Yeah, it's clogged up right now, so I think it's dried. Now eventually it starts feeding out. This is all still at full speed of the air. The dial's turned up all the way. Yeah, so it might be, if we look here, the paint is caking up on this this brass tip. Look at it. Look at how dirty this is now. So let me get some of that alcohol on this cotton swab. See, it should be pretty easy to clean. Sorry, lost focus. Get some cotton swab action in there. Sorry if I lost focus, I don't have 3 hands. It's actually not so easy to get into that groove. That groove is kind of deep. Oh, look at all this extra paint on the front end, the blue, the white. Trying to get it perfectly clean and see if we can push that primer through now that this is the way it should be. Alright, that looks perfectly clean. Make sure there's no lint. Okay, just jam this up here more carefully. Alright, it's centered. No, it's still not flowing. No, a little came out. Oh, you know what? It's the hose. The hose is in the wrong spot. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm not used to using this, so with the traditional ones, it doesn't matter gravity. Alright, so the hose is now at the bottom. So my fault totally, but learn from my mistakes. So now we're pumping up. Alright, the paint is going through the hose now, and now it's not an issue. Yeah, alright, I gotta say, yeah, that's not pulled up, by the way, so with really old paint, I guess it's not gonna tear it up. Yeah, but still, it seems like it dried out again or something. I don't know if you want to just maybe brush your finger over the tip of this, and let's see if it flows faster. So primer's a problem with the white, it seems. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try the black primer with this giant tip and see if it suffers the same fate. It might just be the tip and not, you know, the paint's fine. I think it's just the tip that might be the issue. So now we have a lot of flow. Not your aunt. Okay. Might as well try on some paper. Alright, so yeah. Maybe it's just the white primer. I do notice that with Vallejo as well. The white primer is it dries out very quick. Yeah, so the black primer is not an issue with this giant tip. The white primer. Let me just now go to a smaller tip. But that seems counterintuitive to me. It is nice and easy without the threading. Just swap these out. Let's go down to, let's try 3. I kind of doubt 3 is going to pull through, but let's give it another mix. Okay. And that's a line. Oh, look at that. So that's something new. It's just, I pushed it up in there, but it didn't stay in there. Where's the tube? I think the tube is right there. That's really sketchy. That's very loose, this one. So that's a problem. You know, if these little 4 ridges inside of there, see, you can see them, if they wear out, you might have to shim this with tape, but that tape's gonna get all bunched up. I really do think maybe it would be smart if they put O-rings. Oh, I guess you could just put O-rings on yourself. Let me do that after we paint and see what we can do. I might have some airsoft O-rings that work. Oh, now look, the white flows fine. So for some reason, the giant 8 size needle doesn't work well with white primer. So yeah, I think you might have to experiment with you know, buying the various needles. Maybe you don't need to buy the 8 at all. Maybe that's why the gun only came with the first 3 sizes. Alright, so now the final part is testing this water-based paint with the 0.2. I'm going to test it on the paper first so I don't mess up my model. The needle was off. Let me reset it. Needles in. Yeah, it's not pulling. Wait, where's the tube? Oh, the tube is at the bottom. Okay, I'm just looking through there. So the tube should be sucking through. Oh, interesting. The sound changed, so that might be a way you can tell. But yeah, this 0.3 needle is way too small. Yeah, I don't know. We'll just leave that. I'll clean that out later. Let's try 0.3. Make sure that's tight. Make sure again the tube is down. Actually, the more paint you have in here, the less you have to worry about where the tube is, but... Oh, it tried. Oh, now it's... I still think maybe a 3 is too small, so I apologize again if there's black lines. Something about this phone and these LEDs. Anyways, I don't think 0.3 is a good size for this thick paint. Yeah, let's just remove this. Let's go up to 5. It is nice and quick to swap out, and I don't have to sit here and clean out any traditional airbrush stuff. Oh yeah, so you know what? Maybe I just don't have enough paint in the bottom of this bottle. So it's kind of sputtering out. I think I have to thin the paint down. It's just, I'm pretty sure the 8's going to be worse because it's just sputtering. But let's try it. Tube is. So that tube thing's very annoying. It's almost like you want to point the gun upwards, you know, to make sure the tube is always at the bottom. So yeah, this could have been designed better. They could have designed it so there's an angle for the paint itself, at least 45 degrees, and you can still get your hand under it. But then maybe people would complain that they're bumping into the tube all the time. But that would solve a lot of the capillary action issues. That's why on other airbrushes, the tank is below here. It's always sucking upwards, right? Or why couldn't they have made it so, yeah, this was pointed upwards, and this thing was pointed more downwards, right? They could have designed this thing differently, maybe. I don't know. I don't design airbrushes. But anyways, the 0.8 may or may not be working. I think I have to put some more paint in it. I'm going to have to thin it down. So problematic is when you have such an opaque paint, it's hard to tell where that tube is. I honestly don't know where it is right now. So anyways, I'm going to just hold it horizontal, so hopefully that tube is on the bottom half. And then just point this paper here, point it upwards. Oh, with the 0.8 it definitely flows. I watered it down, just guesstimating. I also put some BBs in there to mix up the paint when I need to. So this is the 0.8 needle, and it's definitely sputtering out. I think every now and then, not knowing where that tube is, there's so much paint in there, there's a high probability that the tube is under the paint. But are you going to always have a full bottle of paint, 50 milliliters worth? You know, if it was a half size, you know, 25 milliliters is a lot more acceptable. And that could have been a solution right there. If this bottle was half the length, they could have, again, designed it to be angled downwards. And then it would always be picking up paint. This is horizontal, right? But how are you going to pick up paint unless this bottle is full, right? If the end of the tube is here, once you get lower here, it's never going to pick paint up if you hold this horizontal, or like most people, point it downwards. So unless you get into the habit of painting things upwards, it's going to be really hard to use. Yeah, this is a dumb design. That's what I've come to conclude. I don't understand how someone would dedicate this much time into designing something without realizing the basic fact is you're trying to pick up paint at the bottom of a bottle. And if the bottom of the bottle is not at the bottom, you're going to have problems, right? If I were to design this myself, this is how I would design it. I basically have this thing pointed more horizontally, maybe like that, right? And then the bottle would be right here, right? So that's how all other capillary airbrushes work. I don't know why they want to try to change it. It's very strange. They could have easily just put the trigger on the side or even the back. So now I'm thinking, here's an idea. Well, let's just remove the tube itself, right? And then the paint will still flow through that opening, and then I could point the thing downwards like I instinctively want to do. So let's see what happens with this water-based. Again, the tips misses that. All right. So now the paint's always being sucked through. That's the easy solution right there. We're spraying again. Granted, we're spraying a lot of paint pretty quick. I live in the tropics. It's quite hot here, so my paint dries. Maybe that's the reason why the tip dried out so fast as well. There we go. Yeah, I feel like the tip is dried out again. We're close to it, so let's just do that. Yep, test on some paper. Just try to go for a nice even paint finish here. Well, okay, so I seem to have painted a model. I still prefer the other airbrushes for delicate, you know, top coat, not for more precise work. This is basically just a shotgun of a sprayer, at least with the water-based. This particular consistency, which I can't tell you what it is, I just mixed it by eyesight. So maybe it can be done. It's just that you got to be more precise mixing your water-based paints or thinning them down with the water itself. But yeah, you can see the model. It's not so bad, although now I got some lint in there because I don't have the suction fan on. It must have kicked up something inside this booth. So I took the capillary tube out of the regular alcohol-based one, and then I just took my fingernail and cleaned off the tip. It's still the same tip as earlier, and it works. And this is how I want to hold it, you know? I don't want to hold it this way or that way. So I think you just basically got to get rid of the tubes. But as you see, when you start, you don't want to start on the model. You want to start somewhere else in case it spits out a blob of paint. This is the, what, 0.3? Green is 0.3, no, green is 0.5. So let me see if I can turn this down. Again, now let's go to like maybe the 1030 position. And that's far more controllable. Alright, so maybe with the stock paint, we'll lose the tube and use a fine tip. Let's go to the 3. Make sure that's on, make sure that's screwed tight. You know, there's no air getting in here, but it still works. So I guess there's enough suction. Oh, even at this low speed. Alright, now we're getting to a normal airbrush as far as how it performs. Yeah, this is fine. This is no different than those other standard airbrushes. This works great. Huh. So it started off positive, then it went negative, and now we're back to positive. because, well, at least with the stock paints. Water-based, I think, is going to be a problem. That's not the fault of this unit. It's just the fault of water-based paint. But, yeah. This works fine without the capillary tube. Just get rid of the capillary tubes. So, I think you'll be okay. You don't have to worry about how much paint is in there, because as long as you point it downwards, it's going to always be sucking paint out of there, right? But yeah, I guess keep in mind, you know, see that little splotch? So when I start, yeah, big splotch of paint. So that happens on normal airbrushes too, if you're unaware. So let me pull this out. I'm a little curious. That's been a lot of painting. Oh wow, we're still at 92. So you can paint a lot, more than I think any normal person would, unless you make like 50 model kits at one time, or you're painting a large object, like a body panel of a car or something. All right. Well, anyways, it turned out all right after all. So learn from my lessons. I learned how to do things where you find problems, and hopefully experiment around to find a solution. And for me, it's to get rid of these little tubes. Problem solved. All right, we'll see you in the next product review. I'm actually quite happy I have this. I'll probably still use it mostly for, primer and clear coats. The precision stuff, I think I just still prefer the traditional, pullback, dual action stuff, right? It's just more controllable. You can start, fade in, fade out, all that stuff. And again, you really want to watch that Barbados Rex's channel if you're. That dude tests so much hobby stuff. I don't know the person. I have no affiliation at all. Okay, I'll see you. Bye.